Welcome to Get On With It, Inspiration for Life and Leadership. I'm your host, Sue MacArthur, President of Strategic Talent Management. We've all met them, the people who have a presence and a unique point of view that make us want to lean in and say, tell me more. In this podcast, we celebrate these people and provide a platform through which they can share their insights. Whether you lead a company, a community organization, or just your own life, we offer you these moments of clarity, hope, and inspiration. So let's get on with it. I'm very happy to have Eleni Kelakos, the speaker whisperer, with me today. Eleni is a presence and presentation expert, a coach, an author, and a very talented keynote speaker. She has also been a nationally touring singer-songwriter and a professional actress. I recently read her book, Claim the Stage, A Woman's Guide to Speaking Up, Standing Out, and Taking Leadership, and I found it so helpful. Welcome, Eleni.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've been so looking forward to this, Sue.
Oh, me too. I'm so glad you're here. So let's start with, you have a new book coming out.
I do. Very exciting. And I literally just a couple days ago got the copy that they send you, the actual print copy that says not for resale all across it, but that is designed to get you to take a look at what your book actually looks like in print and then go through it one last time for all those annoying little typos. It's called Charismatic Presence, 5 Principles for Magnetic Presentations.
Tell me about the 5 principles.
Well, first of all, I have to say that in this, I think I'm looking at how many pages I actually have in this book. I think I've got really around 150 pages, but these pages contain the essence of everything I've been teaching for over 20 years. And those principles are based on my years as a performer. As you so nicely pointed out, the things that I learned on countless stages in my quest for what I call presence and presentation mastery. It was long in coming because I was not the most consistent person that ever lived in my auditions, especially when I moved to New York to be an actor. I could be awesome, and then I could be sort of okay. That lack of consistency and ability to be thrown is really what catalyzed the work that I had to do that ultimately over time helped me bring that consistent charismatic presence that I'll explain in a minute to my interviews, my auditions, and my performances, and has formed the foundation of these 5 principles that I have been using with my executive coaching and training clients for all of these years. So they are, in a nutshell, know thyself, know your blessings and your blocks, know what you're good at, know what you're not so good at. See, actors come from this. They spend their lives getting nuanced around that because all they've got is the package that is them. So the more you know about what turns you on, what turns you off, what you're good at, what you're not so good at, the more you know what you need to work on, what you need to magnify. And it also helps you brand yourself, or as an actor would say, it's funny that the word branding, I never even realized that it meant the same thing for years, but typing yourself. What type are you? This is based on what you're exuding in your 3 presence planes, your physical presence, your vocal presence, and your energetic presence. And so the first is know thyself. The second is be thyself, which is the hardest thing when people are looking at you, right? In spotlight moments. Prepare thyself. I could talk about all day long because it's that important. And it's so important that on my wall, it says practice builds confidence, confidence builds presence, and presence is power. Those are my words. I glued them on my wall. Yeah. Well, preparation is everything. That includes rehearsal. That includes preparing your head where your little judgers, Mo and Schmo, live. And actors are nutty about prep. So are musicians. It's all about the prep so that you can surrender to the stage when the time comes. And then the third one, of course, is commit thyself. Commit thyself to making bold choices. Ban wishy-washy. And that has a lot to do with being able to embrace what comes at you with no apology and improvised moments, for example, and bringing yourself fully to them, no matter what. And the fifth one, it's turn thyself on so you can turn others on. And that simply means bring yourself to aliveness. Every actor, every performer worth their salt knows that it's not your audience's job to help you bring it. It's your job to bring yourself fully, not, not some limp noodle version of yourself, but you energized and present in every capacity. So you can light up that moment with who you are at bedrock, but also use the things that you love, that you do well, to imbue what you're doing with a sense of you and your yumminess. And also just simply, literally turn you on. If you love to tell stories, tell more stories, for example, which will get your audience engaged even more. Those are the 5 principles in a nutshell.
Fascinating. How did you learn these tools and these techniques that drive your work?
The hard way, Sue.
I bet.
The hard way. Oh, man. I'll tell you, I moved to New York. I was that girl who got all the parts, the one who got all the parts in middle school and the school plays and high school and college. And then I went to New York City, where everyone was like that. Everyone, the level of competition was so high. And I thought I was pretty darn good, I really did. Until I went to my very first acting class, professional level acting class, right, Sue? And there's a teacher, and his name is Warren Robertson. He's an acting guru, and I'm very excited. This is my first acting class scene, which is a rite of passage for a professional actor in New York City. And so I do the scene, and to be, I'm done. I'm standing there, and there's darkness in front of me. There's about 40 pairs of eyeballs in that darkness watching me, my colleagues, right? And somewhere in the back in the dark is Warren Robertson, the teacher, and he's talking into a scratchy microphone. He sounds like the voice of God,
Oh boy.
And he says, "So, Eleni, how do you think it went?" And I said, well, actually, I didn't say anything because really I stood there thinking for a minute. Man, I don't know. I had such an out-of-body experience. I barely remembered my lines. I wasn't even really sure what I was doing up there. But I don't say that. I say, well, Warren, I thought it went pretty well. He said, well, I didn't.
Ooh.
Oh. He said, I was disappointed. The worst word in the English language to me at that time.
I remember my mother saying she was disappointed in me, and it was the worst thing ever.
Oh, it's like my kryptonite, Bad word. I wanted to sink into the floor, but he wasn't done with me. He said, Eleni, here's why. Look at you. Oh my God, there's so much there. And yet I was watching you and I was thinking, where's Eleni? It's like you were playing this idea of a character. You weren't really inhabiting it. You weren't bringing your perspective and your knowing to the moment or to the character. That's what we want to see. We want you, Eleni. He said, dare to be you. Dare to be present. And I'll tell you what, no one had ever said those words to me before. I didn't even know how to do that, what that meant. And I knew inherently, I knew he was right. So between him and the other stellar master level acting teachers that I worked with in New York City and in Los Angeles, I kept that up, I began to learn how to unzip myself in public. And I mean that in a nice way. allowing myself to fill myself up and to learn to be in a relaxed and breathing body with people looking at me and, quote, judging me. It took a long, long, long time. It was work, Sue. And I'm still learning how to do that.
It sounds like that was a real pivotal moment for you to start thinking in that way.
Yeah, it was. It was pivotal. It was a life-changing, game-changing moment. And I realized I was competitive enough. I am competitive enough to want to be better. And part of what my work involves when I'm working with people is helping them understand that if they want to be able to rise to their occasion, they can't shirk the work. The people that want to excel, and I'm not talking about being perfect, I'm talking about bringing excellence to their world and to their work and to their speaking and to their leadership. They're not afraid to do the work, because boy, you're going to have to step into what I call the murky middle of discomfort over and over and over again. That space between what you know and what you don't know yet. You're just hovering in there like, oh, this feels bad. Oh,
right.
But that's how you learn. And that moment in that class propelled me into that. And then every opportunity I had after that to step into the murky middle, I took with trembling legs and heart. I took it. It burnished me. I learned. And that's how it works.
In your book, Claim the Stage, you talk about a 7-step success cycle. Tell me more about that. I found it fascinating, and it keeps rolling around in my head since
I love that you're asking me about that book. This Charismatic Presence book I just mentioned, that's coming out in about a month and a half. But Claim the Stage, I wrote, frankly, for women. I just feel really strongly that we need more women's voices out there. And so this was my way of just really encouraging women to show up and speak up and step up as often as possible and give them some tools. And it's interesting that you bring this up in those 7 phases, because the 7 phases of what I call the Claim the Stage success cycle, as I was figuring out actually a keynote based on the concept of Claim the Stage, the keynote informed me that I had a there to the way that I was working with my coaching clients, particularly the women that were coming to me for work with executive presence, or what I call charismatic presence, married with presentation skills, which is my forte. And I realized that there was a shape to it. And by the way, the 5 presence principles, think of them as the umbrella over the 7 phases of the Claim the Stage cycle. And that's why I'm so glad you asked that. The stages are: take stock of where you're stuck. Take ownership of your blessings and your blocks. As I mentioned before, again, that rings true with those 5 presence principles. Take aim at the spotlight moments in which you want and need to shine. What are they? You need to have a goal in mind, or several goals in mind, the target you have to aim at before you can actually hit it. And then it's about taking steps, rolling up the sleeves and doing the work. And typically when I'm working with my clients, I am dipping into a 20 plus years of tools and techniques that I can customize. And that's when I'm really, really going down and dirty with practical tools to help whoever it is that I'm working with get better at certain things, minimize certain beliefs, which lead to certain behaviors. And then the last 3 elements of it are: take your cue, otherwise known as stop getting ready to get ready, and also just giving you what you need to be able to manage your anxiety or fear that might stop you from stepping in and taking your cue when the moment comes, and then take a risk. take the risk to do what I learned. Unzip, help yourself learn and grow, help yourself reveal to your audience is the best way to put it. Reveal, not conceal. And then take a bow, meaning, as women, very often, we're not so great at honoring our accomplishments or sharing them with others to our detriment. So part of this is being able to help the women that I work with feel good about pointing to and standing on the laurels of what they've accomplished. So it all works together in this framework.
It made a lot of sense to me. And it's something that I've been keeping in my mind as I grow into this podcast, even.
Talk about the murky middle of discomfort, right, Sue?
Right.
And yet here you are doing it. And you are doing exactly what I am trying to encourage with not just the women that I work with, but with everyone. I really feel that, it takes a huge amount of courage to do what you're doing right now and step into a new venture like this, but it's public as well. You're putting yourself out there, and we often shy away from that out of fear and beliefs that we have that keep us from doing it. So the fact that we're even here right now, Sue, recording this, and that you have a number of these under your belt speaks very highly of you and your ability to shush those little inner judges.
Right. Well, let's talk about the inner judges. You've got friends that live on your shoulders,
Oh,
Mo
yes.
and Schmo.
Mo and Schmo.
And I know that you talk a lot about overcoming limiting beliefs.
When I talk about limiting beliefs, I'm talking about what I call the lies that bind you. The lies that bind you. Those are those limiting beliefs that really are uttered by, I imagine these two little gremlins sitting on your shoulder, right? They're equal opportunity naysayers. Their entire job is to get you to second guess yourself. Their entire job is to, there's an expression in which I'm not a big football fan, but I love this expression. It's called icing the kicker. And that's when the coach on the opposing team, while a kicker is getting ready to kick the ball over the goalposts, that coach calls a timeout just when that kicker is just getting ready to kick the ball. And it's designed entirely to throw off the kicker. And that's what these little guys are doing. And they have a direct line to your fear. They're the representatives of fear. And their whole job is to get you to consider not doing what you're thinking of doing, right? So they might be uttering things like, nobody takes you seriously, you stupid doo-doo head. And they sound like little middle school bullies. They sound like that. They're awful. Or you're not leadership material. Everyone can tell. Or you're not articulate enough to be the kind of public speaker who moves people's hearts and souls. So why bother? That's what I mean by those little lies that bind, those limiting beliefs. They can truly stop you in your tracks. And what they do is that charismatic presence that we have that's so gorgeous that we're born with, everybody's got it. Little babies have it. Little fuzzy four-legged babies, little two-legged human babies are irresistible just by being who they are, no more, no less. But as soon as those little babies start to grow up and start worrying about what other people think about them, or pleasing people, or being accepted, or not failing, then Mo and Schmo make their acquaintance, right? And they begin to play small, and that charismatic presence gets smaller and smaller. It can do such huge damage to let those limiting beliefs rule. They can drive the bus if you let them.
So how do we move past that? How do we turn it around?
First, by acknowledging what they are. And this, again, takes a little bit of work. I often will have my clients just make a list of the lies that bind them, unstintingly, from the point of view of Mo and Schmo, as if Mo and Schmo are talking at them. And then the second part of it is once they have that list down, and often the list is long, there'll be 15 sentences on that list. Then I have them rate each one of those sentences on a scale of 1 to 5 of fear or anxiety that it provokes. 1 meaning, not too bad. 5 meaning off the charts. Ugh. That helps me know what the hot button ones really are. Then the sleeves get rolled up and we begin to do the work to reframe, which is critical. So that means turning each one of those sentences into an I sentence, first person, owning it. No I wills, no some days, as if it's a done deal. So nobody takes you seriously might turn into, because I take myself seriously, others do too. Or because I value my experience and my expertise, I take myself seriously, and others do too. It takes that kind of work. And then there's another tiny little step. Find some evidence that proves each of those statements to be true. Look for 2 or 3 pieces of evidence, concrete evidence in your world and work that can shore each one of those up. Defend each one like a lawyer in court. And then make them yours. And to do that, there's no getting around it. Those lies that bind you develop because a lie that bind is simply a thought you've thunk enough times that it's dropped into your subconscious mind. You got to do the same thing with the new beliefs. You got to think them enough, read them enough, or listen to them enough so that they become a part of you. And grass can grow on those other limiting beliefs. So I'll counsel my clients to write them down on slips of paper, put them everywhere. Keep reminding yourself of what they are. Speak them out loud. When the opposing lie that binds comes up, shut them out. Speak out loud, if you can, the new belief. That's one way of doing it. I always suggest that you record them in a row. Speak each one, say 3 to 5 times, and then listen to it. Listen to it before you fall asleep, before you wake up in the morning. I mean, you can't really listen to it before you wake up, right when you wake up. When your mind is out of it. Yeah. When you're still laying there, when your brain is in theta mode, hypnosis wave mode, suck them in and listen to them for over 60 days. It will change your brain. You're basically indoctrinating yourself with new beliefs, and new beliefs cause new behaviors.
Are there some common limiting beliefs that you run into over and over again with your clients?
It's shocking. And I'm working with amazing humans who are all smart and educated and blah, blah, blah. And it just to hear these things, and they show up all the time. Often I hear, you're not interesting enough, otherwise known as you're boring. So no one wants to know what you have to say or cares about it. That one is one of the biggest ones. Another huge one is you're going to forget what you wanted to say. A lot of people are really worried about that. And not just the older people who, I'm talking about everybody's worried they're going to have one of those blank moments of, I have no idea. They're going to freeze. They worry about that. And they also worry that people are judging them and judging them as inferior in some way. Not good enough in any way. Not good enough. Not boy, I hear things like they're the terrible twos I hear. You're too young. You're too fat. You're too short. You're not educated enough. And this is often from people who have a lot of degrees. Never being enough.
Wow.
Those are very, very common. And people share them with me like it's a deep, dark secret. they're really, it is imposter syndrome at its core. You know, people are going to find out that you don't know as much as they thought you did. There's that feel.
When we take the stage, whether that means we speak up in a meeting or we literally take the stage, whatever your stage is, that can be laden with fear and anxiety and all kinds of terrible things that can really throw you off track. How do you control that fear and anxiety in those high stress spotlight moments?
It's such a good question. And it's the question, isn't it, really? Because when you are on deck waiting to step in, that is when Mo and Schmo are at their loudest and most annoying. You are at your most vulnerable. And I find a lot of, you may have said this or heard this, someone else say this. They'll say, you know what, 5 minutes in, I'm really great. No problems. 5 minutes in, I'm fine. And I always think, well, okay, imagine Michael Phelps, the multiple, Olympic gold winner, swimmer, saying those words. I mean, how long do his swim meets last?
It's over in less than 5
Yeah,
minutes.
it's like 1 minute, and he'd still be standing on that little block thinking if that were the case, right? But you have to be ready before you step in. So managing what's going on when you're on deck is critical. And I really believe in what I call R and R and R, ritual, routine, and repetition. Little tools that you use, little rituals that you engage in that comfort you and help you find and keep center, that keep you breathing and present. There are so many examples that I can give, but I always like to share this one little tool that incorporates a few things. Mm-hmm. And it's called FBI. I came up with this as a just simple thing that people could do because simple is good. You can remember simple. 3 steps, right? 3 things. So imagine that you're waiting to go on, whatever going on is. Maybe it's before a big pitch or before a really important meeting, or maybe before giving a training or a keynote, standing in the proverbial wings, right? Or a job interview, waiting to be interviewed. It's all nerve-wracking. So first things first is F is for floor, foot, and footing. F as in FBI. Okay. F as in floor, foot, footing. Find the floor with your feet is the way that I put it. You wiggle your toes in your shoes, feel the floor under your feet, feel Mother Earth supporting you. And if you're seated, feel the chair in back of you, feel the seat holding you up. Really ground yourself, step 1. Step 2 is B for bring your breath into your belly. When you go into fight or flight, you tend to hyperventilate. Your breath will stop being couched in your belly where it needs to be and start to rise and go up here. Your breath becomes more shallow and quicker. Sometimes you can hear your heart beating, Mm-hmm. Boom, 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 boom. We've all been there. I've been there.
Oh, we have.
Yeah, and all these other things are happening. Maybe you're sweating or flushing or trembling or so. Your job at that point is to get a hold of your breath. You want to move it back into your belly. The simplest way to do that is by doing mindfulness breathing. And I always suggest you can do it in any way that you want. One of my favorite ways to do it is breathe in for 5, hold for 7, exhale for 6. Or another simple thing to do is box breathing. Count, inhale on 4, hold for 4, exhale on 4, hold for 4. But do something consistently with your eyes closed 10 times. Because by around time number 7, you'll have begun to take control of your breath. You're essentially engaging in a parasympathetic response to your sympathetic nervous system's normal response to fear. You are activating an opposing response that puts you in the power position, puts you in control. Your breath is everything. So F is for floor, footing. B is for bring your breath into your belly. And I is for intention. You got to know why you're stepping into that meeting, into that presentation, into that spotlight moment. What are you there to do in service to the audience? Once you know that, that is what you hold on to. It is the task at hand. It's more important than anything. So remind yourself about what your intention is. What is the task that you're there to honor and make manifest? And I is also for eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart, even though it's not spelled with an I, but it's a reminder that you're there to connect with that audience with your eyes and your heart.
I like how the phrase you used, in service of the audience. I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it.
Well, it's actually, it's why you're there. It's not about you, you know. It's about your audience of one or many. You're there to be of service to them. I'm constantly reminding my clients about this. We think it's about us. No, we are the vessel. We are there to educate, uplift, inform, encourage, motivate, inspire, whatever it is. We need to know what it is and we need to honor it. And by the way, you can use FBI as a recovery tool as well. So if something throws you for a loop, stop for a moment. Always have water with you. Find the floor with your feet. Meanwhile, take your water, take a sip of water, and exhale. You're forced into exhaling when you drink. Inhale and exhale a couple times. And then as you're doing that, ask yourself, what am I here to do right now? What is the immediate task at hand? Immediate intention, and get back to it. You're giving yourself a little oasis of grace, a moment to recover. And by the way, I discovered, much to my great joy, that my FBI tool is very similar to what top level peak performance coaches for athletes will use. I like baseball, so I was thinking of how I've read that there'll be a 3-step similar kind of recovery tool that's given so that someone can quickly recover from a bad play, a bad pitch. And it's similar. It's essentially ground yourself, manage your breathing, get back to what you're there to do. That's what FBI really is.
When it comes to public speaking, is there a best practice that's out there, or a common assumption that you think is actually really holding people back?
Oh, I want to hug you for asking me that. I'd like to know who told people that you should look over your audience's heads when you speak to them. Because in actuality, all that does is distance you from them. And I think that was said because that way people might have felt they'd be less afraid somehow by not looking at people. But the truth is, you want to be able to connect with your audience. The more willing you are to create connection with them, the more relaxed you're going to feel. We feel more threatened when we don't feel the connection with the audience. In fact, that's been proven over and over with Zoom. We lack that connection, and it can throw us sometimes because we don't feel that sense of connection. It's harder through a screen. Back in tribal days, if you were cast out of the tribe, and that meant it was like you were outside of the tribe, and that meant danger. So when we get in front of a group, there's all those eyeballs looking at us. I'm sure harkens us back to that tribal notion, right? So, and what we want to do in a scenario like that typically is hide, is armor up, is look above the audience's heads. But actually, it's the reverse of that that will make you feel better. It's creating connection. It's being willing to establish what I call the sacred eight between you and each member of your audience. This figure eight of energy and sound, and connection between you and the members of your audience. That goes back and forth and back and forth. That. So being willing to talk to that person, and then that person, and then even that person in the way back row that you can't even see but intend to connect with.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot better than looking distantly over their heads.
Right. And then you're still on the stage all alone. Whereas if you engage with individuals in the audience, you're not quite so alone.
Beautifully stated. That's exactly right.
Right.
You can feel it. It reminds me of what the singer Garth Brooks said. He'd been off the road for something like 7 years, and he was asked, wow, what made you come back? He said, I missed connecting to 2,000 pairs of eyes a night. He missed it.
Right.
It's energy going back and forth. It's beautiful if you're willing to be open to it. That's the key. Taking the risk to open up, even if you're feeling vulnerable, because it can be scary. It's for any one of us, even those of us who are supposedly pros. Any one of us can get thrown at any time.
So what's next for you? You've got the book coming out.
Yeah, I've got the book coming out, and that's going to be a big push. That's always a big deal. And the way I look at it is it's all things charismatic presence, because this is the crown to my career and my legacy work. So I have a keynote that is attached to my charismatic presence work that I'm going to be delivering a lot, God willing, over the next year or two. And trainings associated with it and various programming around that. And that's really exciting to me. And as part of that, I'm going to be doing what you're doing, be establishing my Charismatic Presence podcast. And so there are a lot of elements that are going to be put into place around this whole notion of charismatic presence. And I will feel like I've done my work. I have this trio of books. I always knew I would write this trio of books. And then after that, we'll see. I have other books in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always something. I'm a creative by nature. And so I'm always listening for the what's next, for the could be more that bubbles up inside.
So what's the biggest takeaway that you hope our listeners will pay attention to from what we've talked about today?
The biggest takeaway that I hope will reside in the hearts and souls of whoever is listening is this. You have charismatic presence. You were born with it. And in my opinion, it's your responsibility to fan the flame of that charismatic presence, to do everything you can to let it magnify and grow, so that when, not if, but when you choose to make your wisdom and your perspective and your big ideas known in spotlight moments, that charismatic presence makes you innately, humanly, as magnetic as you can be, so that your message lands and you can make your unique difference. Do not think that being shy, scared, introverted, or inexperienced as a speaker or as a leader is enough to keep you from claiming the stage and performing at your peak in spotlight moments.
Mm.
If you need help around that, there's a lot of people out there can help you. People like me.
Right.
They're out there, and all they want to do is love you up, help you remember that you have value, that who you are matters, and what you have to say really matters. And I believe that with all of my heart.
Very good words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
It's been my pleasure. And we will have some information in the show notes of how to reach out to you if people would like some more information or want to connect. And I just have been so delighted to have you with me today.
I'm so glad you asked me. And I feel like anyone that you're going to be interviewing, as you move forward is the lucky, lucky human.
Oh, thank you, Eleni. Thank you. Wow, what a great conversation and the perfect way to kick off this new podcast. I hope you enjoyed this time with Eleni as much as I did. And if you'd like to learn more about her, please visit her website at theelenigroup.com, and that's ELENI. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.